Hey, it's Don the Auction Professor. Today is Sunday, so we're going to go back to a normal what we sold on eBay. I've just picked some random items. This past week has honestly been probably one of the busiest weeks we've ever had. It's right up there with one other weekend where we sold $4,700 on one day. Not sure why. I have no idea what's going on, but sales have just literally shot through the roof. I said once school started in, things would be different. This past weekend, most schools are in. The rest of the schools go in on this weekend or at the end of this week. They'll all be in. So literally most people should be picking up if you haven't had some phenomenal weekend. I've had a couple other people tell me that this weekend was really good. But other than that, I haven't heard a lot of comments on that. If it was good for you or it wasn't, please put some comments down below so I can just have an idea. I try to judge this and figure out why things are going on. This helps for next year as well, so I'll know how to track and better have the information. I'm going to share information when I can, too. I post some information on times and when it gets busy and things like that on my Facebook group as well, too. But we're going to go over to the screen, and I'm going to show you some of what we sold.
Okay, I'm just going to get right into it as usual. I picked some random items. I was just going to show you just to start with a little bit here on some of the multiple purchase items that I talk about. Every single day of the week, pretty much these days, I get an offer for a bunch of items from the same person. It happens pretty much literally every single day of the week. Now here's a bunch. You can see there's tracking on them all, so they all have been shipped even at this point. This is just from this prior week. Keeps going on. There's several $100s here, just to say the least. And, you know, these are all literally to one single person right there. That is all that they bought right there. All similar types. They come and do this a couple times a month, this one person here. And now I've got another person. Here's another order. Now, these two are bigger orders. It's usually 4, 5, 6, or 1 or 2 or 3, something along that line, that we get multiple purchases. And that works better when you don't give away free shipping. If you charge shipping, it's a bigger incentive to buy more items, especially because these people are collectors. They're going to buy these items anyway at some point. Maybe not from you, but it encourages them to buy them from you because they'll get a price break on the shipping. I basically... If it's, let's say, one item's $3.50, I can include in mail, you know, dozens of items for that same $3.50. So they save $3.50 for every single item they buy. And this one here was like $300 or $400 on this order. And you can see, again, this is still just this past week. You can see all the ones that this person got. I mean, some of these cards are $20 and $30 a piece. So most of these were just a couple dollars below my asking price as well, too. So you can see there's a lot. Those are just 2 separate orders to 2 separate buyers just this past week. So, again, this was a monster week. The last 2 weeks, the sales have been through the roof across the board in most areas that we sell in. I sold a bunch of records. Clothing I still have on discount, so I did sell a couple pieces of clothing every day of the week this week. You know, I've eliminated several bins just this past week alone because I got rid of a couple of jackets, winter jackets that I just sold because, again, it's summer now. Here, it's not summer everywhere else. And in some areas, there's snow in the mountains or, you know, winter's fast approaching because we're going into third quarter. So you're going to need to, if you do sell clothing, start getting the inventory switched around from summer and make sure in just a couple weeks or a week at the most, you can have your winter merchandise up because it's going to start to sell. But anyway, let's go on to the actual items. I just wanted to show you. You know, I have people talk about how do you get so many multiple sales. It's pretty easy. This is just 2 people that bought that many. I mean, I think the average is like 30 on one, and I think the next person bought like 40 or something. And then I had a bunch, you know, a dozen or 2 groups that people bought 2 and 3. And this one here is one that somebody bought 2. We bought 2 that went together. And that's why I talk about these. This is number 1 to a set. And it's an engraved one. It's a decent image. They bought it for the artwork, I would gather, too. And here is number 1 to that. So, you know, this is just a perfect example. I didn't get these together, believe it or not, but they do go to the same set. I do set things aside if there's, you know, a series of them. I try to get the whole set together because I do run across the same things over and over and over and over again. You know, I look all over the place for these things. I got pickers that just scour places. So it's not just me. I've got 9 more eyes these days that are looking for this stuff besides me, besides my wife and family. So, and again, we do have employees that list, so I can be out sourcing while, a half a dozen people could still be listing at the same time. Or one person could be packing up, another person could be sorting, one or two people could be photographing, and two more people could be listing all at the same time. That is the key. I try to cram as much stuff into one area. I'm not using the extra light and stuff. We just cram everything in and get it all out at the same time. That's always key to this. And you got to be able to trust the people you have working for you. I've got some that, will work when I'm not even here. So, I don't really worry about it with the people we have. They've spent the night at our house before. They even worked here for, a long time. My kids have known them for a while. I've known them. I know their parents, so it's not a huge ordeal. But anyway, let's go on to the next item. These both sold for $20 each, so I took $40 on them. Again, I just throw prices out there higher. I expected to get 15 or so, 15, $20. So I took 20 a piece. I got $40 out of one purchase here. And these are cheapo things. So, these are things that I only pay $1 or less for. Another one of these, this is just another luggage label. I took $10 on it. It was up for a little while. I'm not, any worry to sell it. They go for about $8, so I got a couple bucks over what they go for. Some items you can't price 3 times, it won't sell, but I'll double it or something. It just depends on the category. You have to kind of understand the philosophy behind this when you're doing it. Most paper items you're safe with 3 times, like cards or postcards, photos and things like that. Some items I don't, because you don't want to be too outrageous, because they never ever sell in certain ranges. But cards and postcards are a different story. It just depends on what you're selling. Like records, you can't do that in everything. Some ones you can. Records are getting to be harder to sell in some areas, like LPs, for instance. Because they make new ones, and the new ones are, spot on, and they're sealed, and you can get a brand new one that's been digitally remastered to play on modern day turntables that will just sound phenomenal. If you haven't heard a new record, I really recommend doing it. Go down to like a record day or something. But anyway, let's move on here. Again, these are just random items. Here's another postcard now. I have a couple of these. I don't mind when I buy, multiples, like a big stack I'll see somewhere. They'll be bundled together, and Lord knows they probably weren't even sold. It was probably like out of the printer's warehouse or something. It depends on the card. Now, this one's a fairly oddball card, and it's for the Doral Hotel. A lot of the Miami ones seem to sell, It's not quite second to, California cards, but still, anyway. I took 11 on it. I got a bunch. I don't really care. I've gotten like $5 into like 30 of these. So, I already paid for 30 cards right off the bat. It wasn't even up that long, too. Camera stuff, too. This one sold overnight, just at full price, $34.50. It's got the box and everything and the instructions. So, and again, I've got like 50 cents or less probably into this. It was bought in a big lot. Let's move on here. This was up for like maybe 3 hours. Full price, $75. I've talked about Palmer Cox before. I got this. I listed it right away because I knew it would be a quick turnaround. This is some sort of trade card. It's a blank back card. It's bigger than, let's say, a trade card technically, but it's close to the size of a postcard. I've never seen this exact series of cards. It's by Prang, so it's a leading company that did like Christmas cards and stuff. I'm not really sure, but $75 was a fair price, I thought. I could have probably put, like 95 on it or something like that. But I figured it'd be a quick sell in this one either way. They don't sell usually much more than $75 across the board. There's a few rare ones that are advertisements or that are cutout figures you'd cut out that would have more information, something on the back to make it more worthwhile. That'll sell for more than it's like $120-ish. You just have to know. That's why I say Palmer Cox. He's somebody you need to pay attention to realize this, because there's postcards that look almost identical to this that people pass up because they think the comical ones aren't worth anything. Most of them aren't, but there are quite a few different series that are, and any of the brownies in Palmer Cox are worth money. I talk about these too. I sold a couple lots of comic books. When they're not worth selling, that they're not over $10 or so, in listing in comic books on eBay, I'll throw them in a lot. These are like dollar comics. I paid it no more than $1 for each one of these, so I've got $5 into this lot. It's sold at $39. So, and that's literally how these usually sell. If I can't sell them for on their own, this is what happens to them. And I usually get, $4 or $5 minimum a comic on average for most of these. So, and I've gotten more than that out of these. So, and you can look them up. I mean, they're nothing special wise. The best one in here is, people like the horror ones, so that's part of it. But the best one here is this one. It's a double feature. It's a thick comic. It was 25 cents when the rest were actually only 12. So, it was a decent lot. They're getting their money's worth. It's, half of what book is, or maybe even less than half of actually price guide book value. But again, I only have $1 into them. Now, this one I sold. I think I got 20 out of this one here. There's no telling on some of these. Villa Beach, there's not a lot that sell for very much money, and the ones that do are like RPPCs. So, this one I was fine with what I took out of it. And this person's bought in, I don't know, a half a dozen or more from this same area. He pretty much buys them all. So I just, pretty much, take most of the offers because he comes back all the time. That's another thing I talk about in the past, that you respect your customers and give them a deal to get them back. If they know you're always going to give them, accept an offer, or at least come back with some reasonable offer, they're going to come back because they know they can deal with you, especially when you have some good cards. Now, this person's been watching me now. I know he has because he constantly buys stuff right after I put it up. So I don't know if he's got a search on it or what the case may be, but he could be subscribed to my store because, there's quite a few that are. So anyway, good price on that one. This is $1 or less postcard. I've showed hundreds. I got like 6,000 postcards the other day. I got roughly almost $800 into them, and I don't mind doing that when you start to look through the first box and you already can see your money coming back out of that first box, and then the rest is just gravy. Even if I didn't sell anything else other than the ones I saw in the first box, I'm going to roll in it. And I randomly picked a box, so who knows? I wasn't going to look through 6,000 if I didn't have to. And if I looked through half of them, there wasn't much in it. I'd just pretty much flip through the other ones pretty quickly. But anyway, I may show you some of those because it's a huge amount of postcards. I haven't even went through them all at this point, but anyway. Next item, we sold a bunch of magazines. I just thought I'd show you a few real quick. Who was this? Was this the Monkeys? Cow Sills, I think it is. But anyway, it's just these 16 magazine ones usually sell. You want to list as much as you can on these. I don't necessarily have to list the, the month and stuff, but on some of these I do, just because there are specific collectors that want to get certain issues. But anyway, we did take $12.25 on it. I marked a bunch down too. I've got a ton, and I mean a ton of magazines. I probably got 1,000 magazines right now because I keep buying them, and I haven't had a chance to get a bunch up. They were scheduled to go up in a little while. They'll be up for Christmas, and that was the key either way. So anyway, this one sold for $75 here too. This is an oddball one. I have not seen this one. And it's not even a real picture postcard. It's just the place it is and the fact that it's in Hollywood. Now, I don't know. Maybe this is some kind of hotel or something, or a little lounge or something. Probably a hotel from the looks of it. So it's probably a pretty scarce one at $75 to sell just like that. And it was up for, it wasn't up that long, a month or two. So, I've got 10 cents into listing it. I talked about these before. Every one of these I get, I sell. I have $10 again out of them. $1 or less I pay for these. You can find these fairly often. I've even found some of these at Savers, believe it or not, in the case in the front. But anyway, they always show up at flea markets and estate sales and antique malls too. So, and even at antique malls, they're only $1 or $2. And I might pay $2 if it's a really nice looking one or has an early date or something really unique on it. If it has an amusement park on it, I usually will spend $2 on one of these. But there's very few things that I do spend $2 on, so just FYI. Somebody wore this as a necklace. You can see underneath the CH of the Richard at the top. It's kind of rounded there. That's from a necklace being around it for a long time, it looks like to me. And you can see it a little discolored there, which stands to reason. He wore this around his neck. It was like a love token. Him and his girlfriend or wife or whatever it ended up being. Dean and Janice was what they had on it. But anyway, they're like good luck tokens. These I get in sheets quite often. This is an early one. You've got to know the difference between the newer ones from the 20s and 30s and the 1870s and 80s, and this is the earlier one. I broke these up into blocks of 4, and I've been getting $14.50 or so a piece for the blocks of 4. The whole sheet wouldn't have went for $50, so you got to kind of weigh the options on these. Did I want to let it sit there for a little longer? and make almost double my money, or did I want to blow it out for 50? Now, I don't mind it setting because I know I'm going to get my money back on it. I only have to sell well, actually, this paid for my money into it. I think I got $5 into the sheet or something, and I bought a stack of these. And this was, I've talked about scrapbookers. This came from a scrapbooker, and I know they're vintage. Maybe they don't know that, but I know for sure these are vintage originals. I know the name. You can tell by the printing. You can see the flaking off. The whole works of style. These are definitely 100% vintage ones. So, anyway, the original vintage ones, 1870s. This is just another cute card, $20. It's not even that good on the back. It looks like someone spilled something on it, maybe. But anyway, it's just a cute cover here. Somebody will probably make a Christmas ornament or something out of this one here. It is a cute card, honestly. Let's see here. Now, this is a Zowie. I showed a couple of these. I sold the most expensive one. I had one that was worth like $30 or $40, and he sold almost at my asking price. I think I took like $250 off or something within like 2 days of it going up. And then this one kind of sat there for another 2 or 3 months, like 15 cents worth of listing it. So I took $10 for it. Again, it's a tiny little car. I got it for like a quarter or something like that. It was in a haul video, even if I'm not mistaken, from like a month or two ago, because I don't list everything right away. I separate things by, you know, what they are, what would be the best time to list it, and if I have more of that same item up, I will put them together and list a bunch, you know, not together as a lot, but list them individually, but at the same time, literally in a row. When you list them together like that too, they'll show up in searches like near each other. So if they're similar items, it'll draw more attention to them because you'll see the first one, a second one, a third one, and they'll zoom in, and eventually they're just going to hit your store because they keep seeing them from the same person. So that's usually what you want to do. That's why I say list a bunch each day. So these folks that are diehard collectors that, you know, do searches for new items being listed every day of the week or once or twice a week, they're going to see your item right in a row there instead of having to hunt and peck for it. And usually it does force them or gets them to, you know, follow or subscribe or at least check out your store. And that's literally the game. You need to get them into your store to get them to buy something from your store, of course. Again, I've sold a bunch of these. This is another multi-purchase. I've just got a few in here. I think I took 20 a piece on these. Maybe it was 15. I sold some for 15, some for 20. I sold a couple for 30. We sold like 1 or 2 every day of the week on these, average. And this one person bought like 6 on his own. So maybe it's like two a day, I think, maybe. Because I want to say we sold more than a dozen this week of these. But anyway, that's one. Here's another one. Another one. This one went to France, actually, and he spent I think it was 30 or 35 on this one, and then it was like $15, I want to say, or $14 to ship to France. But anyway, he was happy with it, happy winning it anyway. This one here I sold for $100. It was up for a little while, but this is another one of those graphic ones. It's bright, it's gaudy, it's got everything you look for in these kind. These really graphical cards are the ones you want the most. And the same thing with postcards. If you run into a postcard that looks like this in style and form, and it's vintage, 1910ish or so, it's worth some money. You know, again, this was $100. That same person bought this one here for $75. I took a $75 off on it. So $175 on 2 pieces. All these labels go, and it's similar style to what you just saw, and that's why they're called graphical cards. Sometimes they put it in there, sometimes they don't, because sometimes there's just not room up here. But anyway, so those are 2 good ones too. Oh yeah, and I sold another, I said that before this week, I sold another one of the high dollar lithographer cards. I got $900 for one. I'm going to show you in just a minute here too. This one was $14.50 straight off. It was sold within like an hour of it going up, right off the bat. Now all the ones, even from the same line, just don't sell very high. This must be some kind of variety. I might have put, you know, another, I could have, maybe $27.50 maybe I should have put on it. I don't know. But all the other ones sold for like $4 to $7, so I was doubling it. I don't want to be greedy on everything. I figured this one would take a little longer to sell, but you know, everybody makes mistakes. You know, I got $1 or less into it, so it's really not a mistake. It's just, you know, a $10, $12 plus profit, you know, for an hour's worth of time listing or whatever. Okay, let's see. Here's another postcard. This one sold right off the bat too, $14.50. There's not a lot of these that sell, even over $7 or $8. So, just whatever reason it is, I doubled it on this one. I don't, again, double it on every one. If it's a low dollar one and all the other ones are only selling for $3 or $4, and I see a bunch that somebody tried to sell at 14, I may still put it at 17 or so and keep it in there. Especially if the one that was at $14.50 wasn't a bin, or they had it as a bin but no best offer. I best offer everything. I put them up high, best offer, and usually either it sells at full price or I'll get an offer within a certain length of time. It's a really good one, and then the rest just turn into residual income where I sell them all the time. When you have 45 plus thousand items up, stuff sells every single day of the week. No time variance or nothing. It's just pretty much, I can almost set my clock by my daily sales. Now here's this one here. I put it up for $12.50. This is officially the highest price one of these engraved wood block printing cards that sold on eBay. Literally, this is the number one, the highest seller one of these. And I took $900 on it. And again, this gentleman's bought many things for me for over the last 3 years. So I let him have a break on it. I don't know what it's really worth anyway. The highest one before this was like $863, and it wasn't quite as nice as this one. I maybe could have held out for, maybe another 100, but that would be pushing it. The highest price cards in this category are like baseball. And then below that might be some clipper ship from like California. Because the cards from California like this sell horrendously well too, just like anything else from California. Again, because it's a large percentage of the population. I think the biggest, single state with the biggest percentage of population is California across the board. So anyway, $900 on this one here. I really liked it. I mean, I don't know what I would have done with it if I kept it. But $900, it was a good deal on me. I don't have much into it. Dollars, just single digits probably. Let's see here. This one sold. As I said, I've talked about this in the past. I did put some on discount. I don't give eBay any funds for it. So most of these Corticelli spool silk ones sell if they have the cat on it. Even little tiny stickers and labels and things like that too. So I was quite surprised. I expected to get 10 or 15 for this. I priced it accordingly, $37.50. But somebody did buy it. It's small, so for $31.88, I was happy. Now, I showed this in my final value fees video. This is literally the lot that sold. $24.50 is what I took for it. It's just a bunch of lens caps that I was going to trash them, but then I looked up, did some comps on just junk lens caps, because I don't even know what most of these go to. So I figured somebody will figure it out. And I just threw some random price out there. It's higher than most of the ones I see. I've sold some, lens caps in the past from like specific brands, like a Rollie camera. Do yourself a favor and look up Rollie, R-O-L-L-I-E. It's a German camera. Every one I've ever gotten, I've gotten hundreds of dollars for. Even the lens caps sell for like 30 and 40 sometimes. A Rollie. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. Again, random items. I sold way more than I'm showing you. I didn't include... I do have one record lot in here just to show you something. But I didn't include most of the records at all because we sold a bunch. You saw one higher dollar one that I just sold in the final value fees video too. That one just sold too. That was a $120 record. But, we sold a couple $1,000s in records this week alone, just as always. And then again, close to 1,000 in clothing this week. Just blowing it out, and that's at my discounted price. It's just because I want to get rid of it. I'm pretty much done. I do have, still maybe 100 pieces of clothing, a list, and then that's gone, So as soon as this area, and I have enough to do them in, we're going to do all the clothing in one sit down and get it all up and be done with it. I just want to have all the bins empty. I stage things, meaning I set things up ahead of time so I know what I'm going to do with them. So I've got all of the clothing that's left that we've bought that afterwards. I was going to just sell it to somebody else, but at this point, it's all good stuff. I mean, pretty darn good stuff. And we're selling, a pretty good amount of clothing right this minute at the prices we got them. But it's mostly like vintage and oddball stuff too. But as soon as that's cleared off the shelf, you'll see us getting rid of the clothing too. But anyway, this is another skating label, $20. I think we only sold 6 this week. We had been selling at least 1.5 a day average. So it was a little down, but most of them went for $20, so I'm not going to complain because I was taking 15 on some of them. If I wanted to sell, say, 50 or 60 of these real quick, I could just bop them down to $7, and I guarantee you I would sell probably most of the ones I have up for $7 if that's what I put it at, or be able to jimmy around with the price a little bit there. But anyway, this is just a random Lake Tahoe card. I took 20 on it. It's just like a generic nondescript one. There's hundreds of different just areas. The ones that you really want are ones that show something specific. This is just a bunch of trees, but I was still happy for $20. It's like $1 or less card, maybe even 50 cents. I don't see a price on it, but that's, I'm sure, what it was. I showed this in a haul too. The buckle is what they're buying, and not for a clothing piece, but I sell a lot of buckles. I sold a half a dozen or more buckles, so about one a week or one a day this past week, and just buckles. I got like a couple bucks into it, maybe $4 or something, and I got 30 back out of it, so I can't complain. Let's see, another card, cute. Anything with pugs seems to sell, especially Christmas ones. This is just a Christmas card, a really early Christmas card. And there are people, you can be lucky enough to walk up on collections of just people that collect vintage Christmas cards, and they'll collect them for years and years and years, just like stamps. So I do buy collections like that. Most people don't know about stuff like that and don't know who to even ask on how to acquire something like that. But when you're in the loop and you know a lot of the auction houses, word gets around and who buys what and who pays top dollar. It may not mean that they'll tell me, or sell it to me directly, but they'll sure as heck notify me that they have these up. And this is one of those times where if my picker can't make it, I go to a sale or an auction or something like that. And I do go to, one a month or so. Starting in another, say, 2 weeks or so, I'm going to be going to a lot more on my own, just because my picker sourcing is going to be drying up because garage sales and estate sales start to go out of season, and they're stuck to the usual just random calls and things like that. So my sourcing is going to start to dwindle off, from pickers and stuff. But again, I still have tons of other sources, and I stock up. So I've got a ton of merchandise. I've got a stack like 10 feet tall, 10 feet across, 10 feet wide of just boxes that are full of stuff that we've sourced. Even again, it's not a dead pile. This is just back stock. It's just stuff so I can stagger it. During the winter months, you don't have as much opportunity to get sourcing. So, I'll get half of what I normally would get. So this fills in those little gaps. So I never have a break in the amount of stuff to list and the type of stuff to list. So, that's just part of sourcing. It's sourcing 101. You got to have a grasp on the whole aspect of it. You got to realize when seasons change and have a secondary option. You got to know if certain times of the year, like Christmas, might be good for retail arbitrage, because I do some of that. I'm not going to criticize it. We have done some small level drop shipping, but there's just too many people doing it. Too many people having issues, and if you haven't heard from somebody, you're going to one of these days soon, where their reputation was ruined on eBay or something for doing drop shipping. Even my last live, somebody hollered out that they had that same concern. I've got a couple in my Facebook group that said that as well too. So and there's one that said it to me in the email. Didn't want to announce it because he was kind of embarrassed that it happened to him. But anyway, this one did sell for $20.82, just FYI. Another magazine, $10. So, these are like $1.50 magazines. The photography ones usually I can get for 50 cents. Sometimes if you buy, like 100 or so of them, you can get them down for like a quarter, even 10 cents. It just depends on who you're buying from, what the deal is. Because most of the photography ones will sit at a sale or something for a long time. They might not even be sold on the last day because they're not huge movers. But if you get them cheap enough, you're making $8-10 a pop, and selling a couple a week, depending on how many you bought. But anyway. Now, I talk about, again, lotting things up. If they won't sell individually, I lot them up. Now, a lot of these records are like $5-6 records. I would never sell anything 78Ys these days under like $17.50. I want to get at least $15 out of it to afford to throw in the labor to wrap a group of these up. So on here, I just throw them together. And since you can take 12 photos, I put 6 records up, front and back of all 6 records. And that's an easier way to do it on stuff like this when there's smaller lots. When I've got a big lot of, say, 100 45s, it's a different story. But I won't sell more than, say, 5 or 6 of the 78s in a lot, just out of weight and safety-wise for shipping. I just don't want to mess with any of those. So if I can't split them up this way, I'll get rid of them locally at an auction. I'll take them down to the auction and just take whatever I get for them from the auctioneer. So anyway, and that's a pretty easy way to get rid of them. Most of them sell really well, too. So and the last item we're going to, now this is just a scrap of paper. Somebody cut around it. It's a bigger piece, if I remember right. Well, 7 3/8 by 11 inches tall. So just about the size of a standard size sheet of notebook paper, school paper, or computer paper. But anyway, I took 10 on it. It was up for maybe 3 months, so I got about 15 cents on the listing. It had a few spots on it, so I didn't mind taking a little less. And again, it's just a piece of paper that somebody's cut all the wording off of, but it's a big piece of paper. So somebody will mount this on something. They make a table centerpiece or a big something for the Christmas tree or decorations, or they may mount it to a scrapbook and use this for the cover design. That's what people do with this stuff. So if you're unaware, there's a lot of places that these are sold to for people that are doing all kinds of different weird things with them. So I get people asking, well, who's going to buy that? Who's going to want that? Even just a scrap of paper sells, and we sell a couple, a day in these scraps. That's just the way it works, So anyway, again, I picked some different items. I tried to give you a better idea, and showing in the beginning there, you got to see a couple big purchases by 2 different people right off the bat, and then you saw many others. That's part of why you charge for shipping. I keep trying to get this across to everybody, but if you're selling collectibles and antiques, charge shipping. Clothing, different story. If you got to do free shipping because everybody else is doing it, it makes a little bit of sense that way. But as soon as you go to a different category and stuff, it's different for whichever category you sell in. So just keep that in mind, okay? So anyway, that's what I have for you today. Hopefully that gives you some ideas and some thoughts on the items here.
Well, there you go. That's some more of what we sold. Hopefully that gives you some ideas, some thoughts. I tried to add some comments about the items as I did it. But that's what I have for you today. If you liked the video, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon up top to be notified when I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.